Maher has really leaned into his boomer characteristics. And he apparently has forgotten that he's incredibly wealthy, incredibly privileged, and paid almost nothing for his college education, which is why it makes it infuriating that he's so against any student loan relief for students who have borrowed, students who are in debt. In a recent episode of his show, he said, quote, President Biden is under enormous pressure, speaking of college kids, to come up with a plan now to relieve college debt. A lot of people are saying this is a loser issue. I'll give you some brief numbers here for why that is. 13% of Americans have college debt, federal college debt. So that's not a lot of people you're working to. So his argument here is it's only 13% of Americans who are drowning in student loan debt. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? And that's the thing with data, that's the thing with numbers. You can usually, skew them in a way that fits whatever narrative that you're trying to push out there. But I looked into the numbers. I was curious about the reality. And since there are still plenty of older people who got to take advantage of free college or low tuition costs, people like Bill Maher, those people are still alive. They didn't necessarily have to borrow, or if they did, they've paid it off because it wasn't an insane amount that would keep them in debt for the rest of their lives. He paid $3,000 in tuition for Cornell. And he's telling us what the situation is with student loan debt. Okay, sit down. 43 million Americans have student loan debt. That's 1 in 8 Americans. So yes, 13%. Turns out 13% is a lot of Americans, okay? But no, let's go a little deeper than that. So when you're looking at the entire population and specific demographics of voters, think about who Democrats tend to rely on. They tend to rely on young people to vote for them. Am I wrong about that, Cenk? The Democratic Party leans heavily or relies heavily on young voters to support them, to vote for them, to get out the vote, to canvass for them, to do all the dirty work, all the hard work, which they then probably regret because Democrats never help them out or carry out their own campaign promises. I just want to make sure I'm correct about that. Am I right, Cenk?
You are correct.
Okay, great. So let me continue breaking it down for you. Those ages 25 to 34 are the most likely to hold student loan debt, but the greatest amount is owed by those 35 to 49. More than 600 billion federal data shows. Fascinating. So yeah, why don't you give them the middle finger and tell them to buzz off, knowing full well that that's the demographic you rely on to get reelected, that Democrats rely on to get elected. And then I want to just break it down even further. Let's take a look at this graph. If you're 24 or younger, 7.5 million of you have had to borrow to go to college. And that means that there is $113.7 billion in outstanding student loan debt for those 24 and younger. And then, just look at the numbers, 25 to 34, that's 14.9 million Americans who owe $500 billion in student loan debt. 35 to 46-year-olds, that's 14.3 million Americans, and they owe 613 billion in student loans. But hey, let's minimize it and just throw out a number that helps to buttress or helps to bolster whatever garbage point he's trying to make, as someone, again, who got to take advantage of a system that didn't screw you, a system that had available, affordable college for everyone, including public universities, by the way, that charged no tuition at one point in this country.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of these rich people sitting around with their little circle jerks about the real problem is all these entitled people who are living under this insane system that we didn't have to deal with, but they need to just shove it and accept it. That's what he's basically saying.
So there's two different issues here. One is the politics, and the other is how unbearable Bill Maher and Paul Begala is. So if you thought Maher was bad, and he is, and we got more on that, wait till you hear Begala talking about how he's with the machinists, he's constantly with the middle class. Paul Begala is Democratic consultant. Paul Begala. Oh, hanging out with machinists all the time. Of course you are. But real quick on the politics, Anna covered most of it, but I just want to give you context here. Remember, Biden won by about 7 million votes on the overall in the popular vote, but in the electoral college, he won the 3 swing states he needed to win by only 43,000 votes. 43 million people have student debt. You think that might help you to win? If all you cared about was the politics, because they mainly made a point about, oh, Democrats suck at politics. I can't believe they're gonna help these 43 million people. Well, that would be 43 million more than they've helped today. Okay, so they didn't do any of their promises. They didn't increase wages. They didn't give you paid family. They didn't give you child tax credit. They didn't give you any of the things that they didn't give you voting rights. They didn't give you any of the things that they promised. So helping 43 million Americans might actually be a really, really smart political idea. But so why are Begala and Bill Maher theoretically on the left against it? Well, Bill Maher has become a total right winger. Everything he says, not everything to be fair, because we are fair. And what couple of times he makes sense, we go, oh, look at that, Bill Maher making sense. How's that for an exception? But the rule is you will just see him regurgitate right-wing talking points, and that's what he's doing here. And they'll talk the entire segment about, oh, the Democrats are so bad at framing. Oh, they're so elitist. No, the point of this segment was to protect bankers. It's the bankers that are making money by packaging those loans, even if they don't have the loans, even if it's not their loans. They package them, they turn them into derivatives, and then they gamble on them and they make a ton of money. So this segment on HBO was meant to trick you into thinking that it was for the middle class, when in fact it was helping the bankers do a robbery. So Bill Maher, rebel. Wow, you're so brave these days, helping the super rich and the super powerful. Begala, that's his job.
No, with Begala, it's definitely his job. And I love how Maher was just like, oh, Begala, I mean, you were so successful as a Democratic strategist and all of that.
When?
Oh, super successful. Okay, so let me give you just quickly his quote, Paul Begala's quote from when he was on the show. So this is graphic 9. We Democrats have a lab, 2 labs actually, secret labs, one in Berkeley and one in Brooklyn, where we come up with ideas to piss off the working class, and it's working wonderfully. Somehow in my lifetime, the Democrats have gone from being the party of the factory floor to being the party of the factory lounge. Oh, I'm sorry, faculty lounge. So I'll explain it to you, Begala, because you're part of that. You're a huge part of that, okay? It's called neoliberalism. It's something that was pushed onto the American people beginning in the 1970s, something that was expanded under Clinton's administration in the 1990s. And you know what we get? We get record income inequality, record wealth inequality, okay? That's not because of the faculty lounges, which by the way, have their own problems where they're constantly obsessed with nonstop speech policing, which I do think is a problem for the Democratic Party. But at the end of the day, the Democratic Party needs to take responsibility for their failures because they are failures. They have turned their backs on the workers, okay? They have outsourced jobs. They have empowered corporations to outsource jobs. I mean, you want to sit here and pretend like you're a man of the people while you have provided cover for all the neoliberal Democrats who have helped to destroy this country? How about you shut up and sit down? You're nothing more than a goddamn shill for a system that has failed the American people, period. Not interested in hearing about what Paul Begala has to say.
Hey,
please.
So this segment should have been labeled the dishonest and the dumbass. So Begala's the dishonest one and Bill Maher's the dumbass. And I say that because Bill Maher has no financial incentive in this. He's not a banker, etc. And he says stupid things like, a lot of people are saying. That was the first quote we read you. He says, a lot of people are saying this. Really, Bill, who's saying it? Oh, all your right-wing friends, you dumbass, okay? All of your incredibly rich friends. Dear declare, are we going to pay for the student debt of the paupers? Of the middle class? Oh, everybody's saying that it's a bad idea, Bill. Go tell everyone on HBO it's a bad idea. Hey, now let's turn to the dishonest one, Paul Begala. He makes it sound like, oh, he's a man of the people. And that and Bill Maher said he's the one that helps Democrats win. Wait, he was a giant advisor to Hillary Clinton. Did she win? No, she lost to a moron. They lost to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's one of the dumbest people who's ever been in public office or in the public eye at all. And that idiot, Paul Begala, helped to lose to him. He's like, oh, Hillary Clinton, that's definitely the right candidate. We got this, we're definitely gonna win. You lost to Trump. You should forever live in shame in a cave somewhere. Instead, he comes out and HBO is like, Paul Begala, genius. Genius Paul Begala. Okay, but hey, HBO, I'd like to know, I don't know, is Paul Begala a lobbyist? Because he sounds like a lobbyist. Who does he work for? No, that's a literal question. Because if he's a lobbyist for the guys that are profiting off of not canceling student debt, and you didn't tell your audience that, because he's saying things that are absurd. So here, I'll give you one of the quotes, but everything he said was over the top idiotic. Again, for Begala, though, it's not idiotic. He's doing it on purpose. Yeah, so here's the machinist one that I love, graphic 10. He said, I spent Wednesday last week in Chicago with the machinist union. Hung out with the machinists all day. Great guys. Not one of them came up to me and said, gee, I really hope you take my tax dollars and pay off the debt of someone who went to Stanford. But Biden is under enormous pressure. Okay, wait a minute. Begala, you're a creature of Washington. You're a lobbyist, a consultant, at best a pundit. You're hanging out with machinists all day. You hung out with the machinists one day because of the union and they were probably paying you. Like, oh, I have to go hang out with the middle class. Where's my check? Am I getting paid properly for this? Show me you hang out with machinists all the time. Come on, come on. Are you kidding me? You're a joke. And look at how he frames it. He frames it perfectly Republican. The machinists are helping the guy who went to Stanford. Is that where the majority of the student debt is? Kids who went to Stanford? No, most of those guys already paid it off because they were already incredibly wealthy. No, this goes to people who went to community colleges, went to public colleges, the great majority of it, right? But did they tell you that? No, they framed it as if you're only helping the rich and the elite, when in reality, they're helping the biggest bankers in the country. Who does Paul Begala work for? And is HBO or Bill Maher ever going to disclose it? Because that segment was nothing but outrageous lies meant to trick you into helping bankers instead of the middle class. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.